This is News Talk 980 CKNW.
Two new reports on Canada's real estate are out today. One saying that Vancouver's hot market isn't over yet, Linda.
What?
Yeah.
And the other warning that throughout Canada, the market's overvalued. The risks of a fall are great. What about this? With more on that, we're going to bring in Michael Campbell, the host of Canada's #1 rated financial show, Money Talks.
It feels like mixed messages, Linda, I got to tell you.
Yeah. So, Mike, let's start with these projections for Vancouver. Vancouver's going to lead the way in 2017?
Yeah, it was a Waterhouse Cooper report that just came out today, and they're saying that Vancouver's housing market in 2017 is still going to be #1. We got great economic growth in the city. They say the city will lead other cities in the country's economic growth, about 3.3%. But they're still looking at a big sector of millennial buying there, continued in-migration, immigration. You got the demands for condos are still going to be strong. You've got investors looking for yield, so they're going to be buying those condo buildings. I mean, the list just keeps going on. And, they suggest that Vancouver is going to continue to lead the way. Here's one interesting thing, though, is that on the millennial side of things, it's interesting because Canada is very unlike, it's very unique to the other Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development countries, those 20-plus countries. We're having growth in that area between ages 20 to 44. We're growing at about 2.8%. We're going to do that over the next 5 years. Vancouver and Toronto are the center of that. Our working age population is growing 70% faster than the national average. And so, yeah, that's going to be a big driving factor in them.
So the bubble's not going to burst?
No, I don't. Well, they're suggesting it's not. They're just they're saying that fundamentally the demand-supply relationship hasn't really changed. It's interesting though. I still say those new mortgage rules are going to hurt this millennial group, people who are first-time buyers coming into it. But the other side of that, I think it's going to increase pressure on rents. If they can't buy, they'll rent, and we're going to have a bigger problem that way. Because one thing I think everyone can agree on: we haven't handled the supply problem yet.
So it looks like PwC don't think that foreign buyers sort of tax is really going to affect things. And we've been talking about that too since they brought it in, that, there's speculation that it might not even work.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think it's a great point you're making that, first of all, Toronto has already said they're not doing it, so maybe that means a big push in the Toronto market. That remains to be seen, and they're saying that. Let's see how that fallout is. I say that we're already seeing some fallout, but for that and other reasons. I mean, the thing we've got to get is that we've been declining since April. Look at those September numbers, the August numbers, and so far in October, it shows a big continuation of a real slowdown there. But again, they're coming back to the point that the demand is going to be very high here. And I like their point about investor buying, that, as long as we got 1% interest rates, investors are desperate, and I mean big name, big pools of capital, whether it's our pension funds or whatever, are desperate to get a yield. And real estate is still one of the things that you can, in many markets you can get there. So they're saying also you're going to see a big jump in this sort of mixed kind of demand real estate where, you have the apartments on top of a retail kind of sector there. And, so that's what they're saying. They're kind of like you, Drex. They're saying, no, let's wait and see on that one, but they think there's too many ways to get around it.
What about the idea that a lot of people are concerned that homes and condos are overvalued?
Yeah, and that's what the new CMHC report came out. That's, and I'm going to quote them directly because it's kind of interesting. Canada shows strong evidence of problematic conditions overall due to overvaluation and price acceleration. Now, this is the first time they've put this warning. They say it's a strong warning for the first time because they're worried about affordability and the problems in Toronto and Vancouver. Now, by the way, it's the CMHC, I think, who played a major role in convincing the finance minister to make eligibility to borrow on mortgages more difficult, with those new rules, because they're saying, hey, if we got a problem, maybe a subprime problem or something else shakes us up, a global problem, what have you, then we're in trouble, because I think taxpayers have to remember that the CMHC is a Canadian corporation. It's a Crown corporation. So in other words, taxpayers are on the hook if we all of a sudden got a massive set of defaults. So I think that's what they were the ones who were playing the lead role in convincing the finance ministry.
So if PricewaterhouseCoopers is right and the market continues to be strong, are we likely not going to see any major problems with defaults and foreclosures and mortgages?
Absolutely. That's what's so interesting, is that if we continue to see this strong demand, because they're the most worried they are about Toronto and Vancouver, you continue to see that strong demand, then no, there's not going to be any other big problems in the mortgage market. I mean, prices are going to keep escalating, and at least you'll be able to sell if you need to.
So who do you think is right here?
Well, I mean, I think they're not quite on the same direction there or the same goals here. CMHC and the feds, I think, are basically saying things are very high, it's historically unaffordable, et cetera, and we can't take the chance. Now, if they're saying things like, I acknowledge that the state of the world economy is very precarious right now, they'd be right. That there's a realization that Canada's long-term economic growth has slowed and is going to be slow for a number of years, they're correct. So I think on that. But I do think those new rules went too far. I think especially in this economic environment, we don't have a big history of defaults, even in our worst market years. And real estate remains to be seen whether this continues, but right now it's been a major component of growth in that side of the economy, which in an economy that really needs growth. So I still say be careful what you wish for. This may slow further than they think.
All right, give us your take on this forecast for Vancouver being strong in 2017. What do you think?
Well, I was surprised. I think they identified absolutely accurately. We still have a big demand component, still got a supply challenge. But I think we're also in the midst of a serious correction. I think you're seeing listings way up. Single-family homes aren't selling, at least especially in these last 3 months. And now we come to the traditionally slower season. We get into the end of the year. But so where they may find out that they're right is when we get into spring. That'll have given about 6 months to absorb the mortgage rules. We'll see if that has been enough. We'll see if a lot of the foreign money ended up in Toronto because they're not doing the foreign buyers tax, and we'll see how that plays out. But I think on the short term, we are into a much slower market.
Yeah, you're probably right. Let's leave it there. Thank you very much, Michael Campbell.
My pleasure.
Vancouver's News, Vancouver's Talk. This is News Talk 980, CKNW.